For many people this would be a nightmare, but I'm a reptile fan, and for as long as I can remember I've been surrounded by snakes. This gorgeous animal is a green tree python. It's got a really strong tail. They use it for climbing in the trees. It's totally harmless, unless of course you're a mouse. For as long as I can remember, I've had snakes and reptiles all over the house. This little baby is a spectacled caiman. I got her when I was 15. She fed on worms, fish and fingers. I found this whip snake in Corsica over 20 years ago. That bit me too. But I'm still as passionate about reptiles as other people are about dogs. Golden Labrador puppies are beautiful, but for me, these baby boa constrictors are absolutely gorgeous. Look at the beautiful markings on their tails. Boa constrictors have a legendary reputation for growing to a great size, but they never exceed 20 feet in length. The mother of all these babies is just 10 feet long. To achieve this feat, she doesn't unhinge her jaws. She simply stretches them over and around her food. Snakes larger than her can swallow deer, leopard, and even people. Those are the ones that I want to see. This armchair natural history is fine. But I really want to see big snakes in the wild, and that's why I've come here to the Cameroon in Central Africa. It's a brilliant place for African rock pythons. To find a giant python in its lair, I need some expert help. These men are from the Baya tribe. You're Adamu and...
Oui, je m'appelle Adamu.
Hunting pythons is a tradition that's gone on for centuries here. The hunt begins by torching the dry grass. Once Adamu and the others find where a snake is hiding, they'll catch it in a truly astonishing way. I don't want to see it harmed, so they've promised not to hurt any snakes they find today. A python's lair is usually in a tunnel deep underground. The reptiles can't dig these themselves. They rely on aardvarks to do all the hard work. A fresh python track leads us to one of their burrows. About the size of a large pig, the aardvark is really weird. It hunts for termites at night and spends all day in its underground home. This python hunting is a dying tradition. The younger men, the next generation of hunters, are frightened to go down the holes, and who can blame them? These tunnels sometimes go 100 feet underground. But if I want to see a big python, I've got to follow Adamu. These strange tunnels are unbelievably claustrophobic. I feel like backing straight out. But this is the only way I can get to see a python in its lair. Before we came into the tunnel, the hunters checked for tracks very carefully. People have been buried alive by aardvarks, and hyenas and even leopards sometimes shelter in these burrows. As we go deeper, I try not to think about the horror of being walled in by an aardvark. I'm speaking quietly, not because the snake can hear, they're deaf to airborne sounds, but because this is breathtaking. Right in the python's lair. She knows that Adamu and I are here. They can sense heat, so she's seeing a heat image of me and Adamu. This is magical. There's a beautiful orange bat, taking no notice of the python just hanging from the roof of the cavern. The bat is too small for a python of this size to bother with. She eats antelope.
striking now. I think it's time to leave it to the expert. Adamu is going to try to catch her by her head.
A gauntlet of sun-dried antelope skin is his only protection.
This is where it could get interesting. All pythons have got a mouthful of 100 curved back teeth. No pythons are venomous, but if they bite, those teeth can slice through flesh like saw blades.
Giant snakes have tough hides and are nearly all muscle, so handling them like this doesn't hurt them.
Adamu's caught the snake, and he's dragging it back up the tunnel. It's time to get out of here.
Adamu needs to overcome the python's great strength. Pulling slowly and steadily is the best way to do that. This tug of war can take half an hour or more.
Adamu's just at the entrance with an absolute giant. They've blocked every chink of light in the hole. Makes it much easier to bring the snake out. It's much more aggressive if it can see the light. What a beautiful creature. This is absolutely fantastic. African pythons, one of the few species that grow to nearly 30 feet. The world record one was 9.8 metres long. Shot near the Ivory Coast. This is about half that size, but what a beautiful specimen. Look at that wonderful black and white pattern. Great big belly scales. Big pythons use them for moving along, locomoting. Beautiful snake this is. Well done.
That's it, yeah.
Brilliant. I can't believe it. This is the first time I've seen one in the wild like this. A big python like that is worth about $30 to the hunters. They don't make much from the skin, they make most of their money from the flesh. But we've obviously reimbursed them so the snake can be released back into the hole.
The first leg of my journey is nearly over. I've been face to face with Africa's longest snake.
Thanks very much.
Now it's time to get to grips with the longest snake in the world. To do this, I have to fly east for thousands of miles, and this time I'm going to catch a giant myself.
This food looks absolutely delicious, but I've got butterflies in my stomach thinking about what I've got to do. I'm in Singapore, one of the busiest cities in Southeast Asia, and the last place you'd think you'd find giant snakes.
Even here there are fragments of rainforest, but they're fast disappearing. Snakes are forced from a leafy jungle to a concrete one. There's been a sighting of an enormous reptile. I've come to investigate with Jonathan Kang and a team from the Durham Reptile Park.
The python just moved into the drain.
In the storm drain?
Yeah.
Is it a big one?
It's a very big one.
Oh,
Reticulated pythons are extremely aggressive.
Jonathan, what a big snake. Wait, let's have that snake. Adamu had an antelope skin. I haven't got one of those, but I've got a set. This is much bigger than the one in Africa, and they've got really sharp teeth.
Be careful the land.
Oh, wow! Oh, look at that!
Okay, just hold on to the next section of it.
I'll be bitten unless I can get a good grip on the retic's neck.
Yeah, I got it. I'm close enough to the head. What a fantastic... What do you think? This must be about 5 metres.
Yeah,
Look.
definitely fine.
That is amazing.
Okay, Nigel, you got the neck?
Yeah.
Okay, you got a good hole.
This is absolutely... This is the biggest snake I've ever seen. There's been 7 close encounters with pythons in the centre of Singapore in the last 2 years. A guy was sitting on the toilet and one struck up from the bowl. That would really spoil your weekend. What a fantastic
animal. Let's put him in the bag.
Your average commuter isn't keen on snakes. Left here, the python would be killed, but the reptile part will give it a good home.
So beautiful. The sheen on the scales as well. It's like oil on water. It's so beautiful. What a lovely...
Slowly, slowly, hold on.
Reticulated pythons can approach 30 feet in length. That's half a tennis court, but they're slender snakes. My next encounter is with a real heavyweight. The Burmese is the world's heaviest python. These are from Thailand, a few hundred miles north of Singapore.
This is the giant snake of the steamy swamps and forests of Southeast Asia. As well as being big, the Burmese python must be the randiest snake on the planet. It's the breeding season now, and these two are just about to begin their courtship.
Believe it or not, there's a python perfume. The female exudes a chemical from between her scales when she's ready to mate. The male's smelling her with his tongue. If I remain still and low, they'll carry on their courtship without taking any notice of me. The male's moving much closer to the female. You see how much smaller he is than her. All giant snakes retain a legacy from their lizard ancestors. Both sexes have the remnants of hind limbs, but only the males have a use for them.
I've never seen this before. The male python's using his spurs to stimulate the female. You can see him using the spur to scrape along her scales. It's all part of the courtship process. He's trying to get her to mate.
A month later, the female will lay up to 100 eggs. She's a devoted mother. As well as guarding them, she keeps them warm in a truly extraordinary way by literally shivering. Her twitching muscles generate just the right amount of heat. For 60 days, she stays coiled around her eggs. She doesn't eat or even drink. Surviving the ordeal of motherhood is one of the reasons female pythons are much bigger than their mates. Using an egg tooth on their snouts, the snakelings slice their way out. Her duties as a mother are over now. Once they've hatched, baby pythons are on their own. Already the babies can catch and eat mice. In a few years, they'll be capable of swallowing a leopard. Burmese pythons are one of my favourites. When I was 14, I had a baby one, just like this. They grow incredibly fast. At the moment, they're just 50 centimetres, about 20 inches, but in just a year, they can grow longer than I am, reaching a length of 2 metres. That's 6 foot 7 inches. My python grew as big as this one. It outgrew it, and these babies are so cute. It outgrew our house, and my mum wasn't keen on devoting a whole room to a python, so she had to go. The python, of course, not my mum. A Miss Harry Carey rang up about our advert, and she had a really sexy voice that got my teenage hormones fizzing. And when she came down, she didn't disappoint. She was a snake dancer from Liverpool. I wonder what they're doing now. Because in captivity, Burmese pythons grow very big indeed. This beautiful creature is Baby. She's the biggest snake in captivity. She's really, really docile, but just imagine trying to weigh and measure a python in the wild. They'd be striking and trying to constrict you. That's why there's so many tall tales, or should I say long tales, about pythons in the wild. Baby's been measured accurately, and she's 27 feet 10 inches long and weighs 410 pounds, which is twice my weight. She really is an absolutely, you've got the heaviest, but really is an absolutely spectacular creature. Baby is an impressive python, but there's a boa that grows even larger. That's found in South America. I'm in the Llanos in Venezuela, a vast savanna that's flooded for much of the year. Huge water boas, also known as anacondas, lurk in the muddy swamps. This is a land of giants. Weighing as much as 400 hamsters, the capybara is the world's largest rodent. For anacondas, it's a delicacy. Eating prey as large as this is why anacondas and pythons have become gigantic. Swallowing a caiman would be impossible for other snakes, but not for an anaconda. It's dangerous being close to the water here, even for this strange creature.
I've always wanted to see a giant anteater. It's heard me. They've got really acute hearing. What a magnificent animal. They look defenceless, but they can really look after themselves. They've got sharp claws for breaking into termite mounds, and if they're cornered, they stand up on their back legs and slash out. They can even cope with a jaguar. This is brilliant. I never thought I'd be jogging with a galloping anteater. They run on their knuckles and the side of their feet. Those claws are so important to them, they've got to keep them sharp so they don't run on their claws.
I've seen a python in those claustrophobic aardvark burrows in Africa. I've caught one in Southeast Asia, and now I'm ready to catch an anaconda. But I can't do that on my own. I need the help of a couple that have probably been squeezed and bitten by more anacondas than anyone else on Earth.
Jesus Rivas and his wife Renee are zoologists. They've been studying and catching anacondas for many years.
The best word to describe looking for anacondas is squelchy. As well as looking ahead of you, you have to feel through the mud and the water hyacinths. If you feel anything hard, it could be the coils of an anaconda.
I'm careful where I put my feet. There are poisonous stingrays in the mud and caiman. If you get too close, they give you a fright. If this was a big anaconda, I'd need Jesus and Renee to help. But as it's small, I should be able to manage on my own.
God, that's really strong, even the small moment. Ah, it's got me. I wanted to feel what it was like to be squeezed by an anaconda, but not to be bitten. Of course, there's no damage done. Anacondas aren't venomous. They use their teeth to grab onto their prey, then throw a coil round and constrict them.
I wasn't sure who was catching who. If this snake was bigger, the embrace could be deadly. The coils would tighten gradually and squeeze the last breath from my body. Female anacondas grow 5 times larger than males. I really hope we can find one tomorrow. Stories of anacondas seizing bulls as they go to drink or plucking people out of canoes. Travellers' tales maybe, but anacondas do launch attacks on prey from the water. They're the most aquatic of the giant snakes. Water provides support for their bodies and cover for an ambush. It's astonishing. The snake won't take a breath until the rat has been eaten. That can take half an hour or more. The biggest anacondas could even constrict me, but they wouldn't be able to work their jaws over my shoulders, so at least I wouldn't be swallowed. The next day we felt through the mud with our toes once again.
Jesus, Renee! A big one! It's a big one!
The fat girl.
See your head?
Look at that. You're close to your neck.
What am I supposed to do? Just grab
Just pull.
close
And
to
let
the...
the head come up.
It's right on your hand. It's right on your hand.
Where's the head? Where's the head?
It's gonna nail you anytime. Okay, it's coming.
There.
There.
If I can see the head.
Yeah, careful.
There.
There. Good.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Good job.
Fantastic. I've always wanted to catch an anaconda. What a beautiful snake. Wow. I wouldn't like to be bitten by that. So what were you saying about the evil loop?
Well, it is kind of, with this part of the body, she's gonna soon try to push your hand forward, and that way she's gonna free her head. At the end, you're gonna be tied up with your hands, and her head will be free. It's a very unpleasant position.
So you got to keep this front part of the body
keep
straight.
this part of the body straight to prevent her to develop her loop, and that way she will develop her power and beat us.
How big do you think this one is?
I estimate like almost 4 meters, 3.8 at least.
4 meters.
4 meters, yeah, about 12 feet.
And what's the biggest you've
This
ever
is
caught?
heavy, believe me. Both anacondas and reticulated pythons are contenders for the lengthiest snake, but there's no doubt which is the heftiest. Anacondas can weigh up to 100 kilograms.
So that's as big as a cow or something, is it?
Absolutely, yeah. Well,
Look at that. Ever since I've been a little boy, I've always wanted to do this, catch my own anaconda. They are so beautiful. Look at that lovely orange head. At last I've caught a giant amongst snakes. She's now got to go back to the lab and be measured and weighed accurately. Shall we take her?
sure.
No snake over 30 feet has ever been found. When one is, I'll be at the front of the queue to meet it.